the event flow and setup in Learning Stream. In Learning Stream, the elements of an event are the event page and the registration form. And the event page, certain attributes of it we'll look at in a moment. In settings, in the advanced settings, there's an option to bypass the event page, which we have taken for Philosophy Works. So if somebody clicks on the link that you can provide out of the general settings, that URL, Karen, that we've looked at,
Right.
and they click on it, they will go directly to the registration form because we've set it to bypass the event data. Except there's one other nuance which is now in place. There is an effect on what I'll call the registration window. In other words, once the dates to register are passed, it doesn't bypass the event page. It takes you to the event page instead of directly to the registration form. Let me demonstrate that. I'm doing on time. Got 12 minutes, piece of cake. So if I go into Learning Stream, oh, first of all, if I click Register Now, et voila, I'm into the registration form, which nobody's ever seen before. I'm looking at it for Philosophy Works, even though I've said to bypass it. The reason being, there is an effect of the fact that I'm beyond the registration window, and the status is showing here. So just to have a little bit of fun and demonstrate this, I believe if I go into the events that are posted live, and I'm going to take a risk that nobody else jumps in our space right now, and I'm going to go into the event setup, and I'm going to say that the registration, instead of 9/21, is going to end on 10/21, and save this. Now I'm going to go back to the website, and I'm going to click Register Now, and et voila, I do not go to the event page, I go immediately to the registration form. So this is the paradigm, this is the mode that they wish to use for Philosophy Works. Again, typically the flow for Philosophy Works is that you're going to bypass the event page and go directly to the registration form, which we just saw. As I said, that's governed by two things. First of all, indicating that you wish to bypass the event page, and secondly, being within the registration window. Once you're beyond it, you get there to the event page, even though you've said bypass, but you get that message that says the window's closed. Let me just clean up before somebody jumps in and registers, which is always, you never know. So instead of 10/21, what was it, 9/21? So I'm going to save that. Hopefully nobody jumped in those few seconds. So again, if I am here and I click Register Now, again, I'm by. Just a minute, Barry. Okay. So let me finish, please. So again, we're not bypassing, even though we said to. Yes, Barry.
In occasions when you don't go to the registration page, but you go to the event page, yes. Is there a button to click Register Here?
Yes, yes, there is. And that button, another part of the intelligence of the fact that you're beyond the registration period, I can show it to you for part 2 and up. We are not bypassing the registration, the event page. And okay. It will, and again, once the window is open, so let me go to one of our other events. I think they're not posted at the moment, but let me, for example, go to this I6. And first thing I'll show you is that in I6, in the event setup, under the advanced, I do not have checked off bypass event page. Mm-hmm. As distinct from the Philosophy Works, this is the one from this current term, but also from the ones that are not posted that I've started to set up for next term. Here's the 1.231 Wednesday morning. If I go to the event setup and the advanced, you'll see if I did it properly, yes, bypass event page is checked off. So that's the difference between Philosophy Works and every other class. Every other class is not going to bypass the event page, and coincidentally is also going to involve setting up a database record, but that's a slightly different matter. So if I come back to demonstrate what you asked about, Barry, let me go to that. Let me go to the I2 class. Again, the event setup is such that the advanced does not say to bypass the event page. Therefore, when I go to the URL and the registration start date is already passed, and I might, by the time I post these, I might change that to something in November. We'll see. part of what I'm trying to wrap my head around, Karen, is I want to work with you to get the rest of the philosophy work set up so that I can tee up a memo, which I usually send to the level head. So in this case, Michael Posnick. But also in this case, because of its novelty, I also want to engage Russell, and ideally he'll engage work in this line of authority. You next have Ray Gray, who has reporting to him Satya and Adam, because both of those guys may need to wrap their head around how is this going to look so as to change the way the website presents it. For all I know, we'll get away from bypassing the event page because it'll get too complicated. I'm not sure. We shall see. But if I copy this URL, which I just did, and I'm going to paste it into this address here, here's the there's the I2, and to your point, Barry, if I click register now, it brings me to the register. Well, now this is slightly different even still because this needs a database record, right? So I can't just register. I either have to create an account and register or log in and register. But that's a different aspect of the flow.
Yes.
So
you click create an account. Let me see what it looks like.
See if I remember what I sent my password to.
He wanted to see create an account.
Create an account. Okay. So I went a different path, which is I connected to my existing account, and it gives me an opportunity to show something to you. This now is the registration form. Again, that's the second of the two stages. You go from the event page to the registration form.
Right.
The difference in the registration form that I've also added, both for Philosophy Works and for everything else, is what you're seeing here is the look of the registration form for this term when we just had sign up for Philosophy Works and you don't have to tell us where or when. It worked for Wednesday morning on the west side, it worked for all the other places on the east side, etc. But I've changed the form. I went into the registration form, the additional options, and I clicked where it says click here to set up the custom registration page. And I added additional tags down at the bottom so that when they go to it, they'll see what I'm now seeing in Philosophy Works next term, similar to what you were just seeing for I2 this term, which is a little bit more verbiage. Where is it? When is it? Etc. I didn't think it's amiss to repeat that information. Remember, the whole motivation for eliminating the event page was the feeling that the website had most of this information. But I'm reinserting the event page for everything besides part one. And for part one, there still won't be an event page, but on the registration form, I've added more information than was there before because I have the feeling when they go to register, I want them at least have a chance to see what was it I picked? You know, oh yeah, right. I picked a certain day and time. So again, this is an example of the way it will look for Philosophy Works for the Wednesday morning section. I've augmented using that override to the event page. I'm sorry, to the registration form. There's an additional option to customize the registration page, and I've added these extra tags so that it has, again, a beginning, end date, time, time, and meeting at. All right, I know we're running out of time, so I'm not going to submit the registration for I2. I'll cancel out of this. Barry, I'm going to come back to your question if I can. Let me see where it is. Trying to remind myself. It was in, I think I have it still in my clipboard. Oh, I think I'm logged in. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how to log out. Ha ha ha. That's interesting. Yeah, remember it stopped me the first time.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't logged in, and I never got to answer your question, Barry, which is, you know, how do you log in? But
how do you create a new account?
Yeah.
I wanted to see what it was, but that's all right.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do that some other because it's funny though that it's holding me as logged in. Let me just try one thing. I'm going to bring up a different browser. It may not have it in cache in this browser. What am I looking at? I2.
There's supposed to be a little button, no?
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. All right. So there's another thing that's governing at this moment, which is that in Learning Stream, I2 is considered not posted. So I'm going to post it for a moment at the risk that somebody jumps in there and registers. And let me refresh this. And now we've got the Register Now button now that I've posted it. Similar to going from tentative to open. It's now open. I go to Register Now, and fingers crossed, here we are. So if you want to create an account and register, which I just clicked, here's what you need to do. Now again, this may look different based on what the leadership comes back with in terms of other database fields, address, phone number.
Well, one would assume they'd need to put it in, no?
Yes, but again, I haven't drilled too far into it or exercised it too much until I get that feedback. All right, it's just about 10 o'clock. Karen, are there any other questions you might have?
Not at the moment. The only one that really comes to mind is if we're in registration and let's say the cap has been reached for that night for part one.
Yes.
Somebody walks in, do we register them anyway?
Okay, a good question. I just started playing around with that, and I think the answer is waiting lists will work. The first reaction when I saw Howard's email is that, you know, what he was saying is put them on a waiting list to be registered, you know, for the next term. Now, the way that I've looked at, let me just take I2 and put it back to a not posted state. Let me look at some events that are not posted. I was playing around last night. You'll see one that was called waiting list somewhere.
Yeah, up.
Oh, there. Test philosophy works for waitlist. And I set this up. The event setup was such that I was up to having a maximum of 7 participants. I started with 2 so that I could see by the time I put the third person, what would they look like? And I also learned that I originally had automatic waitlist, but I've changed it to manual waitlist. And the reason being, what happened if I had it automatic, as soon as I deregistered a bunch of people, or as soon as I changed the maximum to something higher, all of those people that were on the wait list automatically got into the class.
Right.
And then I had to go back and chase them up for monies. So I've put it on manual now, and that'll be the way we use it going forward. And if you look at this event, I believe I have some people that are, yeah. So here's Randolph waiting 8, number 8, number 9, something like that. He's on the wait list. Now,
Well,
what I learned, which is good, is that I can take this person and I can transfer them.
Oh.
So my theory is that at such time as we have people sitting on a waiting list and we say that there's no space for them to get in this term, we're going to have to go do an exercise to look at the 6 different lists for everybody who's on the waiting list. And again, it'll be a whole effort because we have to ask them, are you still interested? If so, are you still interested in the same day and time? Show me the money, you know, that kind of thing.
Randolph,
Let me just see if Karen has any questions.
Yeah.
What if he walks in person like that night and he's come from, you know, Queens and he wants to register, but we've capped it?
We will need to look. The experience is we fold.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's there for a reason. It's there so that we don't exceed occupancy. And again, we never know between, you know, having 60 people sign up for $0, you're probably going to have 40 people show up, maybe less.
Right.
So we're going to have to talk. That's the only thing I can say. I mean, do we need to be hard? You know, like I said, we usually fold, but we reserve the right to say no. The room is people are sitting on the piano bench.
Okay.
I think we better come to a close. I'll stop the recording. This will be a good one to watch in your spare time.